What's going on, Falcon fans? Taylor and Kyle are back. We're redrafting another year in the NFL. This time we're going to 2015, so a mere 5 years ago. Kyle, what are some of your thoughts on this year's draft?
Definitely quarterbacks was where I kind of put my attention first. You know, Marcus Mariota, Jameis, Winston go in the first two picks, flip from what I said in order. But after that, there's nothing in this class. I mean, Trevor Siemian goes pick 250, and he's about the only one that had success outside the first two picks.
Yeah.
Mariota is a backup now in Oakland or Las Vegas now, and Winston's, free agent. So This class was kind of a bust for quarterbacks.
It was, but I think we knew that going in. But when you had those two needs at the very top and those two quarterbacks, I mean, no one would have thought they wouldn't pan out. Like, they're both good in college. I mean, and then you couldn't get a quarterback anywhere else later, so you had to get those two. So, I mean, it all made sense. But, just looking through it, I'm going to have to go away from quarterback, and I'm not excited about this pick, but I'm going to have to go with Vic Beasley. He was a good edge rusher in the league and in college, so just knowing what I know now, they could probably use some help on defense. So I think that'd be the pickup for them.
Looking to the Titans, you kind of said it with the Buccaneers that, that the Titans go Mariota here, but I don't know how they can't. Their quarterbacks going into the draft were Zach Mettenberger, Charlie Whitehurst, and Alex Tanney.
Jeez.
So you got to go quarterback. So Winston and Mariota are both on the board. I think schematically, Mariota is still probably the best fit, so I'm going to stick with Marcus Mariota.
Wow. I'm genuinely shocked about that. I didn't even have Mariota on my list of top 25 players available. Interesting choice. You went with what they took. And at the top of my players are both Marcus Peters and Todd Gurley. So it's going to be essentially, what do I think the Jaguars would want at this position at this time? It's one of the two. I'm gonna have to go with Marcus Peters. He's a good cornerback. He's still a great cornerback. I think a lot of people, just remembering the draft, people knew he was a good quarterback, but he had a lot of off-field issues in college, and that's what sent him down the draft line a little bit. But I got to go with Marcus Peters, a great corner. So that's my choice for the Jaguars.
So now we're on to the Raiders. Knowing I was doing this pick, I broke out the Bo Jackson jersey today. So their original pick was Amari Cooper, which panned out pretty well for him. Going into the draft, their number one wide receiver was James Jones, and they really didn't have anyone behind him. However, I do think I am going to go a different route just because Cooper worked in the short term, but now, he's on the Cowboys. So long term, it didn't work out for him. So I'm going to go a different route, and they had Justin Tuck coming off one edge. I'm going to take Frank Clark to go off the other edge.
Frank Clark. Solid choice. I like that. The Washington Redskins, they originally picked Brandon Sheriff here at Iowa. Big thing that I noticed, RG3 was their quarterback, and they had Cousins as a backup. So I don't think they would have went quarterback because I think they're fine with what they were doing. I mean, Cousins lasted pretty long there. So I think Sheriff was a good pickup for him. But just to change it up a little bit, Ryan Clark was their safety, and he's 35 years old, so he's pretty up there. So I'm actually going to go with Landon Collins, who also went in the first round. He's a pretty good player, still going along. I mean, it's only been 5 years. I don't know why I'm saying it as if they shouldn't be. So
now we're on to the Jets, and with Winston on the board, I think the Jets would have definitely considered it. Their quarterbacks going into the year were Geno Smith and Ryan Fitzpatrick. It seems like I always end up with a team that has Ryan Fitzpatrick as a backup.
Because every team has had Ryan Fitzpatrick, except the Browns.
Exactly. Albeit, I think Rex Ryan, from his recent interviews, probably would have gone away from Geno Smith, but I'm still going to stick with that and actually going to get him some protection. With the Redskins passing on Sheriff, I'm going to take him to be their left guard over Willie Colon.
Okay. I like it. So next up is the Chicago Bears, who picked Kevin White, wide receiver out of West Virginia. He's probably one of the bigger busts in this draft,
I'd say recent draft.
Yeah, he
like
was
last 10 years.
A lot of injuries, and just looking at the top 15, like at least some of them all did something. Like Danny Shelton wasn't great, but at least he played a little bit. Kevin White just didn't play. He just never played, always injured. So yeah, I don't think they'll be making that mistake again. They needed a lot of help on defense, is what I saw. So for them, I just was going to pick the best player available on defense. According to my ratings, I had Eric Kendricks. I thought he's a really good middle linebacker. He's been all-pro, been to a Pro Bowl. So I'm going to go with Bears, keeping that linebacker class in their history going with Eric Kendricks.
I do think they stick on the defensive side of the ball. And in this draft, I believe it was 5th round. Let me double check here. Yeah, 5th round, they end up getting Grady Jarrett, who's been a pretty productive player. Instead, though, I'm going to have him take Leonard Williams here. Okay.
I like it. Definitely good defensive lineman. And, yeah, I had Grady Jarrett. He's ranked up pretty high on this in my list, too. So I'm going to go with ANDRUS PEAT here. He's been a good offensive lineman. 2 Pro Bowls. He's drafted in the 1st round later by the Saints. So I think taking him out of Stanford would be a good choice for the Giants. Definitely better than the decision they made.
I had right tackle as a big need for the Rams, but I don't think there's a right tackle on the board that's worth their pick here. So I'm going to say status quo with what they did in the actual draft. I think they got it right with TODD GURLEY.
Yeah.
Of course, they parted ways with him this offseason, but I think that if they could do it over again, they would definitely stick with him.
So seeing that they were going to move off Adrian Peterson, even though he rushed for 1,400 yards the year after, I think if they would have gotten Melvin Gordon, they probably would have just got rid of him completely. So I'm going to go Melvin Gordon to the Vikings to take over
I like it.
for AP. So,
yes,
here we go, Browns.
The Browns. So I went back to their depth chart from this year, and it only brought heartache because we had such potential that was derailed by none other than Johnny Manziel.
Oh, boy.
So with that being said, I'm going to go with a playmaker that's still on the board that I'm very happy is still on the board, Amari Cooper. I think if you put Amari Cooper with this Browns line, they would have given whoever's behind center time to throw to him. So would have probably worked out a lot better than Danny Shelton.
They do need a corner. So I'm going to go with BYRON Jones, another Cowboys pickup. He broke the record in standing long jump, the world record. And he's been a good corner. He's played safety. He's played corner. I think the Saints would find a good use for him. So I think, BYRON Jones is probably the guy for the job.
At the time, the Dolphins' defensive line was almost set. They had 3 of the 4 pieces they needed. They had Cameron Wake, Olivier Vernon, and Ndamukong Suh. But they just didn't have that 4th piece to really disrupt. So I'm going to go to the defensive tackle position. Go with a guy who's 6'7", Eric Armstead. I think you put him on that line, no team can run against that.
They needed some corner help. They needed some defensive line help. They needed some offensive line help. So there's plenty different ways that I could go. But I'm going to go with the aforementioned Grady Jarrett here. He was picked in the 5th round in the real draft. So being the number 15 pick, I think that would make him and his family pretty happy. But I think Grady Jarrett's definitely a pick here. They needed some help on the D-line, and now they got it. Yeah. Who are some of the players that you had on your top prospects that weren't drafted?
Well, I think the number one that's going to kind of stick out is Jameis Winston. You go from being the number 1 pick to now just falling out of the top 15.
Below Mariota.
Yeah. And that definitely has something to do with his interceptions that he's had. But looking past quarterback, running backs were loaded this year. David Johnson's still on the board. It still blows my mind that David Johnson and Melvin Gordon were in the same class. Seems like David Johnson's been in the league a lot longer.
Yeah.
But then, Stephon Diggs is still out there. A lot of playmaking positions are the ones that are still left, whereas we kind of drained the other ones.
Thank you, Kyle, for taking the time to do this
Absolutely.
redraft with us again. This was a lot of fun. Next up, we're going to do the mock draft for the real NFL draft. So I'm excited for that one. Can't wait for this week. No sports in a while, so I can't wait to sit down and watch something. So it's going to be great.
Yep. NFL's got a big thing on their plate of pretty much controlling the entire sports world for an entire weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Let's do it. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys, Falcon fans. We thank you all for listening, and go Falcons.
Go Falcons.